of April 7th, 2025 of the, I'm sorry, we're not recording yet, so I'm going to have to hold for a minute. Thank you. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the West Windsor Township Council of April 7th, 2025. Allison, can you please call the roll?
Gawas.
Here.
Jeevers.
Here.
Mandel.
Here.
Weiss.
Here.
Whitfield.
Here.
And have we adequately noticed?
Yes, we were adequately noticed to the Times in the Princeton packet on January 17th, 2025, filed with the clerk of the municipality, posted in the West Windsor Township Municipal Building, as well as on the township website. Please stand for the salute to the flag.
Thank you. There are no ceremonial matters tonight, so I'm going to go right into public comment. I'm going to open public comment. There is a 3-minute limit for each person. Please state your name and address. And there's a 30-minute total limit for public comment.
I have a list. Jacob Swartz.
Hello.
And please speak directly in the
Thank-
microphone, make it a little higher, so because we do want to record properly. Yeah, you can loosen it, or you can take the mic off and speak into it if it's easier.
Turn it.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Hi, better? Good?
That's good.
Great.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Schwartz. I live at 42 Cranberry Road in Princeton Junction near the train station and near Ellsworth Center. So I wanted to comment on 2025-R102, the pledge to expand sustainable land use planning. So certainly I generally agree with the sentiments in the pledge. When it comes to land use, sustainability is a multifaceted concept. Generally, I agree with these sentiments that are in the different whereas clauses, that well-planned land should create transportation choices and provide for a range of housing options. And certainly sustainability doesn't mean doing what we have always done or what we might be used to. When I think about allowing more sustainable land use patterns, I mostly envision allowing people to build at higher densities than we have before, particularly in the town centers, in order to build walkable and bikeable communities. For example, I'm really heartened to see the construction of apartments just north of the train station. Having access to the Northeast Corridor is an amazing resource. But when you look at West Windsor train station on a map, we have more parking lots surrounding our station than any other station on the Northeast Corridor. I see the land around our station as terribly underutilized and, in effect, undervalued. I would hope to see this zone continue to develop into a wonderful and walkable town center. However, we should not only think of increasing density as apartment blocks. I would also love to see an easing of restrictions on the types of housing that can be built around Princeton Junction in my own neighborhood to allow things like duplexes or fourplexes and accessory dwelling units. Allowing more people to live in the walkable and transit accessible zones near our train station will ease the pressure to develop our open spaces and lead to a more sustainable way of life for our township's residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Want to come speak?
Anybody else like to public comment? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Good evening, John Church, 11 Princeton Place. Just be very brief this evening. I sent out a memo to council members and the administration about the budget. Now, this is not the budget hearing, so we can say more about it when you actually have the hearing. But I hope everyone got a copy of this, and maybe you can discuss some of the things, some of the areas that I brought up in that memo. And that's all I have to say right now. The rest of things fine. Everything's good. So no problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Is there anybody else that wishes to come up and make any kind of public comment? Seeing none, I will close the first public comment. There will be another public comment after deliberations later in the meeting. Jim? Going on to administration comments. Carrie, do you want to start?
Good evening. We have several announcements. On Friday, April 18th, the township offices will be closed in observance of the Good Friday holiday, and the Public Works facility will be closed on the following Saturday, April 19th. However, there will be no changes to trash collection scheduled for Friday, April 18th. The West Windsor Shade Tree Commission presents Arbor Day celebration, What the Trees See, on Saturday, April 26, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Ron Rogers Arboretum. The annual Memorial Day Parade and ceremony will be held on Monday, May 26th at 11 a.m. Additional information is on the township website to register, and line up for the parade will begin at 10:30 at the West Windsor Plainsboro High School South parking lot. A new update from the West Windsor Fire Marshal's office. They have a fire safety update regarding landscape material use changes from the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code, which prohibits the use of combustible landscape materials such as wood mulch within 18 inches of any combustible building structure or combustible building accessories such as a deck, porch, or balcony. This update does not apply to single-family homes that are owner-occupied, but does apply to single-family homes that are not owner-occupied and it, such as a rental. But it is for all other buildings. For more information, please contact the Fire Marshal's office at 609-799-8735. And this update is also going to be on news and notices, and that's effective April 15th. And it's coming down from the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code. The 2025 municipal election petitions are available from the clerk's office. And additional information can be found by contacting the clerk's office at 609-799-2400 extension 225. The senior center bus transportation is still currently suspended, but we plan to resume service in the very near future. And we want to thank everyone for their patience with that. And the senior center is still offering with AARP free tax services through April 15th on Tuesday mornings, and appointments are required. Public Works is currently started in Zone 1 this week for brush and leaf pickup. And they will also be holding their spring cleanup day on Saturday, May 10th, 2025. Accepted items and more information is on the Public Works page and on our news and notices. And then this Saturday, April 12th, Mercer County Improvement Authority is hosting a document shredding event at 641 Broad Street in Lot 4 in Trenton from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. with a maximum amount of 8 bankers boxes. That's all the updates we have right now.
Thank you, Carrie. Mayor?
Thanks, Andrea. Welcome. I'm glad you like the train station. We are trying to do other improvements in there. We're working with the county to make 571 more walkable between Cranberry Road and High School South. The old bus garage for the school district looks very ugly now. We are working with the parking authority to change that into a parking lot that can be used for food trucks and other community events. So stay tuned. I mean, the parking lots does look underutilized as a result of COVID. Before that, there was a time when you couldn't get parking in West Windsor train station. Hamilton opening a train station helped. So we're not necessarily looking to expand parking, but we do look to make that more walker and bicycle friendly as much as we possibly can. So again, thank you for coming and making those comments. I'm also happy to report that West Windsor was awarded a 2025 Local Recreational Improvement Grant from the Department of Community Affairs to resurface the basketball and tennis courts at Duck Pond Park. So hopefully we'll get it done this summer. The affordable housing update, As some of you know, we had a hearing in front of Judge Jacobson. We went in with the number of 392 based on the resolution passed by the council. The Fair Share Housing Center came up with a number of 480. We asked multiple times how they came up with the number, and they failed to provide any justification how they came up with the number. As far as I know, it's just that they said we feel like your number should be 480 for whatever reason. We did go to Judge Jacobson. We were hoping to have a argument in front of her based on the law. But unfortunately, essentially, she told us that unless we settle with the Fair Share Housing Center, she will have to assign us a DCA number, which was 667, almost 200 higher than what the Fair Share Housing Center was asking for. So we looked at the properties that the Fair Share Housing Center objected to as developable. And even after accepting all questionable properties, we still believe a number would have been maybe 396. So I don't know how 480 they came up with. But unfortunately, the judge's unwillingness to let us argue the point of law, we were forced to settle with 480 with Fair Share Housing Center. So that's the number that stands now. Last time I checked with our attorney, we still haven't received a written opinion by the judge. So we are waiting. Once the judge issues the opinion, it goes to Mount Laurel Judge Logie, and then he has to sign off on it. But again, that is mute because come June, we will go to council and the planning board to approve our fair housing element fair share plan. That number will be very different than 480. I expect will be a lower number, potentially lower number at that time. We are still working on it and working on the properties to satisfy whatever number we believe is our number based on the law. And once that's approved and we file with the court, we do expect many developers and again Fair Share Housing Center to object to that, and we will go from there. I do expect both the planning board and council to have a meeting somewhere around June 18th to approve our Fair Share Housing Element Fair Share Plan. And before that day, I'll share it with the council in closed session, what our plan is going to be. And lastly, my annual comment, people say the council listens to me because I'm the mayor, and every year I request them not to schedule a council meeting on NC2A final day, and every year they ignore me and do it. And Linda, Duke threw away the game because they were disappointed you won't be watching.
Yeah, well, that was a little tough. Vacate.
Otherwise they would have won. So anyway, so that's just an example. Nobody listens to me. So thank you very much.
The game tonight?
9 o'clock.
Oh,
National championship. Men's collegiate basketball.
Women's was yesterday.
Yes,
right,
and
right.
who won?
UConn.
nice.
Who won for what?
You guys are teaching me.
There you go. There you go.
The tutorial later.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Let's go for council member comments. Sonia?
I really don't have much to say today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Dan?
Well, I'll be brief as well. I have nothing to add to the conversation today. Thank you.
Okay, I think everyone wants to. Martin?
I echo my council colleagues. I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Well, I have a few things.
She's gonna make up for all.
I'm gonna say something, so opening day for the West Windsor Little League was last Saturday, and I wish all the players and the coaches good luck and good sportsmanship in their new season. Thanks to Recreation Manager Ken Jacobs for getting, and working with the DPW workers for all the grooming of the fields, because that's a lot. They got a line, striping, grooming, and all of that. And also they had to get the batting cage just all in order for all the practices over there. West Windsor Lions Club is holding its annual Easter egg hunt at Community Park, 10 a.m. this coming Saturday. So get there early because it's a very competitive event. And once they roll out the eggs and they say go, well, hundreds of kids just like run out there and grab the eggs, and it goes very, very quickly. So don't be late to that. And there's also pictures with the Easter bunny be walking around, and that's a lot of fun, as Andrea and I know. Because last year
Yes,
we got our
yes.
pictures with the Easter bunny.
Yeah, and I think I was one who got to stand between the big kids and the little kids, so it's still healing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a fun event. As there are, Andrew and I will also, as the council's leadership, will hold an open house meeting on April 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. in room B of the municipal building here. So we are here to listen to whatever topics or ideas you'd like to share. Finally, as there are several religious holidays this month, I wish everyone a happy Easter, happy Passover, and a happy Eid celebration. So we're grateful to all who make our diverse community such a welcome and wonderful place.
Thank you, Linda. My term. I was also at the Little League event, and they had a really nice turnout. By the way, they serve really huge hamburgers there if you want to buy hamburgers. I see it looks like it's going to be it was in the rain. Everybody was out there. The kids were all marching onto the field in the rain. So I think it's going to be a really, really good season this year. On March 26th, I went to the county had a Vietnam War Veterans Day. One of our very famous and well-known Vietnam veterans, Mike McMahon, who goes over to the Washington, D.C. Vietnam War Veterans Monument there, and is a big veterans proponent. What was also there, it was a very nice ceremony. I particularly appreciated that most of the ceremony speakers were veterans and veterans of the Vietnam War, and really did speak from the heart. It was very nice. On Thursday, March 27th, I got to go to the New Jersey AI Hub ribbon cutting, which was right here in West Windsor, New Jersey, over on Alexander Road and on Canal Point Boulevard on the corner over there. Princeton University has bought that large office building, and the part of the third floor has now become the AI Hub. This was something that was planned back around December of 2023. It was announced by the governor and the president of Princeton University, and it was a little over a year that is now starting up. So that's pretty good considering all the different groups that have to be involved. There's Princeton University. There's Microsoft is a big partner in it. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority, CoreWeave, which had its public offering, I believe, on the day that this meeting took place. We got a tour of the facility there, which is very similar to what you would call like a workspace office, except that when you do go around, there's a lot of opportunities for synergy. So you're going to have a place there where there'll be a couple of representatives from CoreWeave. There'll be some people from Microsoft. There'll be regular workstations where you're basically sitting next to people, but then there'll also be some little breakout rooms and special offices. And I particularly liked that there was one room that kind of scared me, it was a box almost, and you went into it, but if you didn't want to see the ceiling, there was louvers, and you could push a button and these louvers would close up, and you were essentially like in a box. So they had something for everyone. But the more exciting piece of it was that there were floors in common. So there'd be a common central area, there'd be a common little kitchen area, and the whole idea was to get people talking to each other and to get that synergy and to get that working together going. So I'm looking forward to that expanding, to that bringing more business into West Windsor. I got to speak to the governor for a few minutes, and he was very, very, he was up on things. He said, oh, West Windsor's got one of the best school systems in the country, and That, you know, our town is really a good place to have this kind of a thing. I spoke with Provost Jennifer Rexford, who I've spoken to before, and she was really excited that they're going to be using this to facilitate training for even people in community colleges. So they're going to be putting together curriculums for different levels of schools, including the community colleges there, so that everybody can be trained to be able to work into this new AI world that we now find ourselves in. And I want to thank Kristen Applegate for putting that together. Our own Crystal Applegate, she used to be a council member here in West Windsor. She's vice president, I believe, over at Princeton, and she put the whole thing together there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that one next. And I spoke too long on a bicycle night, so we will move along now. And get on to, we have no public hearings, but Allison, do you have any comments?
I have some announcements.
Mm-hmm.
Following up from what administration also announced. A reminder, Memorial Day Parade is May 26th. Kickoff for the parade is at 11 a.m. at the High School South. And a ceremony will follow at the end of the parade here at the municipal building. If your organization wants to participate in the parade, the sign-up form is online, and you can also contact the clerk's office. Also, it's spring, so that brings out solicitors. The clerk's office has also been notified by our dispatch that solicitors have been going door to door. Just a reminder to residents that solicitors are to be licensed with the clerk's office. They are issued an ID. They are by ordinance. They have to be able to show you this ID upon request. If you want to be added to the no solicit list, you can email me at the clerk's office, asheehan@westwindsortwp.com. Even homemade signs count. So all of these signs and our stickers are to be respected. One last announcement is that petitions for mayor and council vacancies are now available in the clerk's office. You're to provide your name as you want it to appear on the ballot, your address, your email, your phone number. All this information and a form with this information is also can be found on our website. So I do want to announce also that the clerk's office has received a request. The Mayor Marate has requested and has received his packet and petitions as a candidate for mayor. Okay, and that's all the announcements for today.
Thank you, Allison. And just to clarify, the ID that they're supposed to have is not the ID that their company gives them, because every time I ask, that's what they show me.
Oh, no, this is an ID issued from the clerk's office, which also has their photograph on it and my signature. So,
And
and each solicitor should be carrying that. So not just one from each company, but each individual person.
right, that's the
Mhm.
other. Okay, thank you. As I said, there's no public hearing, so if you want to go into the consent agenda, does anybody wish anything full? No, the public comments, but there will be another public comment session after we're finished with this business, so it'll be available. Thank you.
Okay, so we have bills and claims on the consent agenda.
Okay, does anybody wish anything pulled from bills and claims? No? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Gawas,
Yes.
Chevers,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Whitfield,
Yes.
Mandel.
Yes. Okay, and now the recommendations from administration and council clerk.
2025-R100, authorizing the place-to-place de-license transfer of liquor license 1113-33-016 GMRI Inc. to remove Suite 100A Bahama Breeze from the licensed premises. 2025-R101, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the renewal of a shared services agreement between West Windsor Township and Hightstown Borough for the provision of public health services and receipt of public health nursing services for the period January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. 2025-R102, authorizing the commitment to pledge continuation and expand sustainable land use planning practices within West Windsor Township in support of an application under the Sustainable Jersey Municipal Certification Program. 2025-R103, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional services agreement with Center State Engineering to provide construction, administration, and observation services for the sidewalk repair program 2024 project, $19,200. 2025-R104, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional services agreement with Center State Engineering to provide construction, administration, and observation services for the street tree removal and stump grinding winter 2025 project, $10,200. 2025-R105, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the renewal of an agreement with the Hamlet at Bear Creek LLC for HVAC upgrades and site improvements as part of the township's affordable housing spending plan, $499,300. 2025-R106, authorizing the business administrator to purchase Packatock automated license plate recognition cameras and apparatuses for the police division through the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, ESCNJ, Cooperative Pricing Program, $63,999. 2025-R107, authorizing the local examination of the 2025 budget. 2025-R108, certifying compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's employment guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records in employment decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in accordance with NJSA 40A:4-5.
Thank you. Does anybody wish anything pulled from here?
No.
No? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve 2025-R100 through 2025-R108.
Second,
Gawes,
yes.
Gevers.
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Whitfield,
Yes.
Mandel.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Moving into introduction of ordinances.
Okay, 2025-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 200 Land Use, Article 4, the procedures set forth for site plan approval and subdivision approval, Sections 200-11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of the Township Code of the Township of West Windsor.
Can I have a motion to introduce?
Salute,
Second.
Okay.
Gawes,
yes.
Gevers,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Whitfield,
Yes.
Mandel,
Yes.
and public hearing will be May 19th, 2025. Okay, 2025-04, an ordinance amending Chapter 200 Land Use, Part 2, Article 11, the procedures set forth for site plan approval and subdivision approval, Sections 200-47, 49, 50, 53, and 54 of the Township Code of the Township of West Windsor.
Can I get a motion to introduce?
Salute,
Second.
And does anyone want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss this before a vote is taken. On number 9, I made, the clerks made copies so that it's easier to follow because sometimes we don't know. Everybody got a full sale, all green, everything with us here. The, on number 9 there, it says, the proposed names of all streets within the subdivision shall be shown and shall be subject to approval by the planning board is what I would like to keep. And also add a second sentence, the township engineer shall coordinate with police, fire, emergency services, and the U.S. Postal Service to avoid duplication of street names. This was, find it here, one second. the original language only had the proposed names of all streets within a subdivision shall be shown and shall be subject to the approval by the planning board. And this has been, I guess, in code for the past 20 years. Personally, I think that the planning board, when they approve applications that come in, approve everything. And if there's something in there, whether it's a brick or a sign or street names or something, should have the right to then bring it up before the planning board and discuss that. I know I brought up something, I guess probably goes back to 2021 application that came in on Old Trenton Road for the senior development that's now going up. And I asked about the names, you know, and asked for consideration of a change. And they did that. The developer wound up doing that. So I didn't want it to be just the township engineer decides, and then there's no opportunity for planning board members to have that discussed. As of the past hour, I learned, well, the township engineer can make a final determination and recommendation for accepting new street names and will so notify the planning board or zoning board as appropriate and the developer of the township engineer's decision. So yes, I understand that does come in at the technical review committee, the TRC level. Sometimes developers know what names they are going to give for the streets, and sometimes they don't. Often, though, by the time you get to the planning board level for a full vote on an application, the names are there. Or at least you know, and if they are, they can be discussed if someone didn't like that. I mean, it usually does not happen where names are changed or requested. But I don't like to see the planning board not being able to at least make a recommendation or suggest changes for the street names in a development. So anyway, so that's what led to, on the front page here, to go back to subject to approval by the planning board, not the township engineer, but to go back to what we currently have on the books is approval by the planning board. And then the township engineer, you know, would coordinate with the police, fire, emergency services and the U.S. Postal Service to avoid duplication of street names. And that's what it should be, because we don't want confusion. We don't want names in town to have duplicates, because that causes confusion for everyone.
Is the redlining your redlining in this attachment?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's on this page. yes.
On 9, are you looking
Yeah,
at,
number
we're
9.
9? No, the redlining was the proposal that we got.
Okay.
That was given by the land use people.
And so the language that you want to change it to is?
To go back to what we have now, which says the planning board.
I think what,
And the other line is just like, I agree, you know, with the administration over, you know, coordinating, having the township engineer coordinate with the police, fire, EMS, postal service, so there's no duplication of the names of the streets. That's fine. They currently do that, but it wasn't in writing.
Linda, did you have something in this packet with what you were looking to say instead? Or?
Well, this is what I proposed.
This top page shows the changes that Linda is proposing
So the
versus the
The number 9.
packet
though,
that you
right?
received.
It's just number 9. That's
Just
the
number
only thing.
9.
Okay, so when you took out planning board, so where's the original one?
Yeah, that's what.
And
That's where
This
it
was in
ended.
here and that was in here. and
It
that
was
crossed out.
there.
It's
Then
planning
they
board
took
was
it
there
out.
originally too, right?
Yeah, that's why.
Yes.
Planning board is crossed out and then it's.
It's 113 there,
So
number
the
9.
original is what they put in is on this
Okay.
page.
No.
Yes.
This is 113, number 9.
Got
This is
it.
what
Yeah.
we got and what we were reviewing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Planning board is crossed out. And then it's just the township engineer piece and okay, this is done the opposite way. And the one over there, number 9, is the
So the proposal was to remove planning board and have township engineer in coordination with police, fire and emergency services and the US Postal Service. What Linda's suggestion is that we do we keep the planning board in there.
Right.
as it was there.
And then.
And then we
reword
added the
it.
line about the township engineer
Mm.
checking.
Right.
Should that line really be that the township engineer will advise the planning board?
Well, the township engineer,
Of this specific ordinance?
right, the township engineer does have a way to, has to be able to rule that if it's a safety issue, and that's really what they're doing. If it's if it's an issue where there's a name that are too similar, then the township engineer needs to be able to say, we don't want to do
Absolutely,
this, right? And then the other one is the post office, that the post office looks at this and makes sure that there isn't a road with that same name.
Yeah.
So in that particular case, the township
Got it.
engineer should have that capability.
I mean, my
before-
point is that it's not clear about the relationship of what the township engineer is doing to the decision that the planning board is.
Yeah, I wasn't,
In the way
that's not, it's not perfect the way it's written. I know that, you know.
At the TRC level, things come in and they talk back and
Mhm.
forth. They may or should, get a list of the names of streets and things like that.
Sure.
Um. And so I think that's one of the
Maybe
things that the
subject
township engineer
Yeah.
has
So
been
the
doing
planning, yeah,
too.
yeah. So
Right.
maybe the wording is that the planning board makes a decision subject to the township engineer's coordination with so on and so forth.
Just
Um,
so you guys, the council is aware, represent a lot of towns and a lot of planning and zoning boards. Normally, a planning board doesn't have much input with the street names. It's usually done
Mike.
by the tax
Right.
assessor.
Mike,
Yeah.
let them finish, then I have comments and then you can,
Yeah.
you can join in. Yeah.
The other concern, I guess, with this is that this particular ordinance that we're voting on is not actually a set of regulations. It's more a set of what has to be turned in for a complete application. So we have to kind of think of it in that direction, that we're,
Fair.
not- in other words, we don't say what the impervious surfaces should be. We don't usually say what the setbacks. Basically, we're just saying you have to include it in your application, and then we take whatever's included, and then the planning board will take that with legal opinion as opposed, check it against current laws and things like that. So this particular ordinance is a limited ordinance for just saying when an application is complete. So we do have to think about that also.
That context, I'm perfectly
Yeah. So,
okay with this change.
anybody want to
Just
say?
not a
that?
problem, just so you know, I mean, I've been on the planning board 10 years and I mean, every now and then something about names or whatever would come up, but it's not often, to be honest, But I just saw that, taking the planning board and saying, shall be subject to approval by the township engineer. I felt that we were taking away some of the right of planning board members to approve it, because you're approving an entire application.
Mayor?
Okay, another example, going to disapprove with my colleague in public and quite vehemently. I have disagreed in private, disagreed at the planning board meeting. This third time, the same thing. First couple of statements that are not accurate. First, township engineer never decides the names of the street. Township engineer just approves whatever is proposed or disapproves what is proposed. So the township engineer doesn't come up with names. He just approves or disapproves based on a whole bunch of criteria. Some of them as much as checking not only with the postal, but checking with Princeton, since we have a Princeton zip code. And I can't tell you, Linda lives on Hawthorne Street. I can't tell you how many pizzas have been delivered for Hawthorne Streets in Plainsboro because the same number. So there are a lot of criteria for that.
Princeton too.
The second thing is that what we have now, we don't have that now. It's a little misrepresentation to say we have that now. Right now, the planning board has not approved any names. This is from Francis. In my time here since late 2008, I have never seen the planning board require comment upon the approved development street names. Sam said it. Sam has been here longer than that for 40 years. And my objections are both philosophical, practical, and then the third one is legal. First one is planning board is a appointed body, not a legislative body. Council has every right to name every street in town. If they want to change street of my name with me, we are welcome to do that, right? Planning board's function is not to choose street names, not to get into argument about whether it should be named after me or Martin or anybody else here. The job is to approve the application, and Mike will back up and Mike will say whether any other townships does that. So I really don't want planning boards to get into an argument about the street names or so. Right now, what happens is when the application is provided, it generally has names Street A, Street B, Street C, or Street 1, Street 2, Street 3. Doesn't have a street name on that. Francis recommends that you don't need to have a particular street names and submits it to the planning board. Planning board has never objected to that, have never asked any questions regarding that. Then when the application is complete and when they are ready to build, they propose some names. Francis checks with police, Francis checks with Princeton, Francis checks with Plainsboro, neighboring towns, checks with fire department. And there are various criteria they use, and if they feel that it will cause confusion, they recommend that they change the name. But we never suggest that you name after a certain person or something. And township has,
Just a question. So the developer proposes the names,
the
right?
developer proposes every name. And the township has named streets, certain streets in town. It's not like the street going into community park, named after a gentleman here, right? They have named it, but that's council's prerogative. You can name every street in town if you want to tomorrow. It's not easy to do because it, like that street, nobody lives. But if somebody lives on that street, that puts a lot of commitment. That's why that decision shouldn't be done lightly. I mean, that there's a reason why the decision should be done, right? And lastly, the current land use code section does not require planning board approval. So if you add whatever Linda is proposing, you are essentially adding something to the code that it doesn't exist. So I'll read the current code sections, and since Linda and Andrea were asking those questions, I provided copies to them, and I can give you the copies to you. I didn't get, I was running late.
Do we have copies for everybody, Mayor?
I give you a copy, give me a copy, I'll ask her. This is, oh.
Is that it?
No, I mean, I
That's
know.
not that. I gave you a paper with, yeah. I gave you. So the current township code, section 200-56 that deals with street sidewalks and alleys states that the developer shall submit in writing on a form to be provided by the Township Department of Community Development a list of all proposed street names for any new development. This list is to be forwarded to the township, forwarded by the township to the appropriate postmaster serving the particular zip code for review and verification of non-conflicting names within the zip code. The township engineer shall then make final determination and recommendation for accepting new street names and will so notify the planning board or zoning board as appropriate and the developer of the township engineer's decision. A lot of things go on before he decides. As I said, he checks with the police, he checks with the fire, he checks in the neighboring township to see that there is no confusion. So the current code section doesn't require the planning board to have an approval. And to put planning board in a position to debate actual names is really unfair. I don't philosophically like that, practically don't like that. Currently, they just, the streets are named ABC 1, 2, 3, depending on what the developer likes and not necessarily the names. And I would like to keep it that way.
So in other words, the planning board doesn't even need the street names in order to approve a plan.
Speak in the.
Oh, the planning board doesn't need the names of the streets in order to approve
Planning
the
board
plan.
doesn't need the names of the streets to approve the application.
And sometimes those street names get decided well after it's been approved.
They are always decided that's the last piece of information that's decided by the developer. The developer does submit to and Francis has no skin in the game. He's an engineer, so there's nothing involved in that. He decides, and how the developer chooses the name is up to the developer. We don't influence that.
In Avalon,
It's not that we have never done that, but we have. I mean, I'm not suggesting that planning board members should come up with the actual names for the developer. But just know that this subject to approval by the planning board is in current code right now.
Linda,
That's
what
it said. Well,
what-
I'm just saying that's what our current code says.
that
And I understand.
our current code,
I mean, some of that may
So-
seem like it's in conflict
So-
with this other code.
So see, the other practical implication of that is the developer will have to come back to the planning board if the planning board has to approve the names, because the names are not given to the planning board when the application happens. The names are decided right at the end. We don't do the work right up front. The reins are not decided right at the end. So if you insist that the planning board needs to approve the names, the developer will have to come back to the planning board, additional expense, additional meeting for the planning board, rather than, as our current code specifies, the township engineer simply tells the planning board or the zoning board what names were chosen. So I would strongly encourage the number 9, as it's written in the agenda, is planning to fix the problem that is in the current system, in that we really don't never give names to the planning board. We simply say road A, road B, road C. And Francis just recommends that that waiver be granted to submission. This will remove that requirement. By that, they don't have to necessarily give any names to the planning board.
so what,
Mike can jump in and
so are you suggesting to leave it the way it is?
the way, leave it as it is. The township engineer shall coordinate with police, fire, emergency services, and you poster. Then he will notify the planning board, zoning board. If the council wants to know the names, I will request the township engineer to send you a list of names every time a final list of names for development is decided.
So so it says the proposed names of all streets within the subdivision, they're actually not going to be necessarily shown
Right.
to the planning board.
Sometimes they are, and sometimes.
Never, I mean, I have not,
I
you
mean,
have been,
It's right here, here, this is the one on Old Trenton Road.
so.
And it says Preserve Boulevard, Holtz Road, and that was a Mech Drive.
Yeah.
Which,
So some,
yeah.
Based on the code that we have here, this says the township engineer shall then make final determination and recommendation for accepting new street names and will so notify the planning board and zoning board as appropriate. Can.
That was recommendation though,
Reference right here.
right, for final determination and recommendation, but the recommendation goes to who? I mean, and it says, and will so notify the planning board and zoning board. So if it's a recommendation, then it seems like that recommendation goes to the zoning board or the planning board regarding, the application.
See, that you're just putting an additional burden on the applicant to come back to the planning board with the names, when the names are decided, just to come to the planning board for getting approval for the names.
I think
I mean,
there can be conditions. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. There can be conditions if there is, say, discussion and the planning board or zoning board didn't particularly like the names. There could be a condition that they come back and approve it with the township engineer, but not.
Linda, with all due respect, that's not the role of planning board and zoning board to choose street names in the town. I mean, their job is to look at the code and approve, not to choose and to put them in a condition, potentially, political situation of choosing names is very unfair. And I philosophically disagree with that. And practically it has implications to having additional meetings, putting additional resources for no good feedback. I mean, the system has worked for 40 years. The other towns use the system. Mike can comment. Mike started commenting. I cut him off. But he can comment and go ahead.
I'm just
Okay.
saying it rarely happens. That's what I'm saying. It rarely happens, but on occasion that it does.
But if it rarely happens, why are you?
It should have a right to say something,
I-
but
if
you're
it-
cutting that right off.
Okay, can I back up a minute and ask Mike, under what condition would a planning board be allowed to make any kind of determination on a name?
It really is not under the purview of the the municipal land use law. It's just not something that municipal land use law gives as a jurisdictional matter to the planning board.
But-
Ministerial item, or as the mayor said, something that council can involve themselves.
So council would have a right to change, which changing a name is a major ordeal to everybody involved, but
As the mayor said, the planning board
Yeah.
can review an application to give the streets A, B, C, and D. As long as those streets are delineated, with different numerals or letters, that's fine. But it's like a planning board involving itself on minute details of architecture. That's really not their purview. Their purview is to review an application pursuant to the land use law as set forth by the town. And that land use law has to be pursuant to the municipal land use law of the state of New Jersey.
so no matter what we put in an ordinance, we wouldn't be really allowed to have an.
I'll put it this way. If an applicant came before a planning board, the planning board said, we want you to name this street Herbert Street. And the applicant goes ahead and consents to it at the hearing, they would be able to file an appeal of that condition of approval. And most likely the court would throw out the requirement that it be Herbert Street.
But what if somebody comes in and to a planning board and says, I want to name this Hitler Street? Can a planning board say, hey, that doesn't fit with our town? I mean,
They could say that this particular town, that's really, it's a ministerial ability. And that's why most towns, as I was saying before, is you'll have the tax assessor review it as well, because the tax assessor has knowledge of all road, street names and all that, and can consult with the engineer to make sure there's no duplicative, or also something that, with the input of the administration, something that could be an offensive name.
so who would make a determination on an offensive name though?
Well, it would be reviewed by the tax assessor first, and the tax assessor could flag it if the person sees something offensive.
And
Taxes, we never got it, taxes.
so,
Or it could be the
Names.
engineer. Just saying,
So-
most towns use a tax assessor.
yeah, tax, so they could flag it and legally they could stop it, or,
Yes, in the end, the town can stop it. Yes.
okay, I'm just trying to figure that one, with,
Andrea,
I'm I'm just
Discuss
kind of
different
curious.
things,
So
Don't-
at this point, our,
Is that an application can be approved, and then when you go in for, for resolution compliance and pulling construction permits and so forth, that's when usually you establish the street names. And you can establish it as part of the beginning of the application as well, but, it really can go all the way to compliance with the resolution.
Andrea, as I suggested, I mean, I can ask Francis to send the council all names once they are decided. You have every right to change every name and name it after all 5 of you.
I have
no
other
problem.
things, I have
But-
other things to do than to
But
check
that's
every
your,
street name.
that's your,
Um,
not the planning board.
Okay, all right, so the law we have here now, the one that's in our E-code, which specifically says, yes, the engineer can check for this and that, that's all fine, because that's either involving safety or it may be involving, somebody being able to find the road or not getting somebody else's package, or, and that comes down to sometimes to safety also.
And look, the
but-
planning board could say, hey, we want you to name streets patriotic names. We'd like you to do that. They can't require it, but they'd like you to do it. A lot of times an applicant will say, well, I want to maintain the favor of the planning board as they go through the process. I'm going to do what they ask me to do.
So the planning board can always make a suggestion. I know I've done that And,
But again, that would be subject to the ministerial review of the administrative staff.
okay, so planning board can make a suggestion on that, the same as they could say we like
It's
red
just-
bricks or anything
yeah,
else.
It's, I understand why it's being taken out of here.
Okay,
It's really not under the purview of the MLUL.
okay.
Should
And
that
the-
even be in? Should that number 9 even be in there or
Yeah,
on the names?
absolutely.
Okay.
Keep in mind that this is really just a checklist, and this checklist is being used to decide whether or not something is a complete application, which is very important because obviously that's the date when the clock starts running, as you know. So this isn't usually a regulation, it's more a checklist of what has to be
And the
included.
checklist could be filled out for street names, could say, well, I'm gonna now name the streets, street A, B, and C, and that would be fine to complete the checklist for completeness, so it can go before the board. Or most of the time, an applicant will, because they want to have something that is appealing to the planning or zoning board, will say, well, I'm gonna name this street, Xavier Street, Xerxes Street, and so forth.
So can we just then, I'm just looking at the E code and the suggestion for in the ordinance. Can we just add after township engineer in coordination with police, fire and emergency services and the US Postal Service? Can we add and will so notify the planning board or zoning board? I don't know. Does that?
Well, they have to do that anyway. Yeah. And under
Well,
this,
It
that-
says that in their other. code
yeah,
there.
but we don't need to double tap that because this is already in the code.
It is already in the code.
So
or
this
maybe-
is merely this isn't what the planning board or what the land use people have to do. This is really what the applicant has to do because it's a checklist. So if that's what we're trying to do, I would just put that in there and then expect or hope that the engineer would do that because it's in the
Don't
code.
make it more complicated. My only comment would be is that the way this is worded, it says the proposed names shall be shown, which kind of forces the applicant to put the names in as opposed to just say names A, B, C.
But again, that's not, the municipal land use law does not require that.
Yeah, but I'm
Right,
saying.
and that's my
but-
point. So should that
So-
now be changed to may? The proposed names of all streets within the subdivision may be shown.
The way it's written, it kind of makes it sound like you have to supply the full names.
Yeah.
That's my
I'm just
concern
saying
with
it's not
that.
required, though. I don't have a problem with the way this is changed.
Well, so you have no problem with the way it's worded, you don't think
No,
that will
I think
cause us an issue? As long as we don't try to enforce that those names are included.
But again,
But-
any applicant who is putting forth a legitimate application, they're gonna probably name those streets. And they're gonna wanna name them streets that they know will be pleasing to that planning board because they're gonna probably be applying for variances and, you're gonna be able to get a variance from planning board. You wanna have them happy with everything else part of your project.
But the mayor did just say we get a lot of streets named A and B and C. So
No, I mean,
Not yet.
one of the reasons, I mean, Dan was asking me, one of the reasons there has to be a placeholder ABC 1, 2, 3, because when planning board is discussing, sometimes they will say that road A, right? They have a
Well, yes, you
question.
have
If you
to
have
have
no
a-
names in there, it's very difficult to say
Right.
which road.
But
yeah,
in
yeah.
that case, road A is really just a placeholder. It's not the
Correct.
proposed.
Oh, yeah,
name,
it's,
right?
it's always been done like that for 30 years. It's always been placeholder. If you look at Avalon, it was named Road A, Road B, Road C. I remember two specific applications, one by toll, where on Bear Brook Road, it was named ABC, EFG. I mean, vertical roads were named by number, horizontal by letters.
Yeah, I
That
understand.
way easier when you're making comment, it's easier to say road H and intersection of one.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Right.
again, my point, it's a little
Yeah.
tiny issue, but as it's been rewritten, it says the proposed names must be shown as opposed to a placeholder name. It's kind of a minor.
Well, that was actually in the way the original is too. That's what kind of gets me.
That's the original,
But
yeah.
that the original and the current
Yes.
and what we're talking about, so it's been there all the time. And yes, you have to have some way of identifying what you're talking about and essentially have a menu on a drawing and just like you'll label the names of the buildings and everything too. You may call them A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, because you're going to have to put out the square feet and you're going to have to put all kinds of information on there. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem if you change that to May, but has to be some
Yeah,
nomenclature.
I mean, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try to give a shot for it and leave the shall, but I'd prefer if they put them in, but you're telling me we couldn't, that's one thing we probably couldn't hold them to if we absolutely had to.
Yeah, again, it's a ministerial function of the township administration or Faulkner Act towns. It's not a function of planning board.
Okay, and
Well, maybe you could put the proposed names, or, what was I gonna say, the placeholder names.
well, I'm gonna have to
Of
come
all
up with a little
streets.
better word for,
You get over complications.
yeah,
No one's proposing street A, B, or C,
yeah.
Again, in the context of it's a checklist, it's giving
checklist.
guidance to the applicant. We're letting them know that they can provide proposed names if they want, but
Well,
they don't have to give us the proposed names.
and at some point, there's going to be a list that says A is now this and B is now this and C and probably a whole new drawing
Right.
with everything on there. Anybody have anything else they want to say at this point? Have we
I think.
over, is anybody, anything else? No? No, okay, so, there's no objection, Allison, can we call the roll?
Okay. Gauss,
Yes.
Jeevers.
yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Whitfield,
Yes.
Mandel.
Yes.
Okay, public hearing will be May 19th, 2025.
Thank you.
Right, and lastly, 2025-05, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Okay, can I get a motion to introduce?
So moved. Second.
Gauss,
Yes.
Jeevers.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Whitfield.
Yes.
Mandel.
Yes.
Public hearing will be May 19th, 2025.
Yes.
2025 budget introduction.
Okay, can I get a motion to introduce our budget for 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Gauss,
Yes.
Jeevers.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Whitfield.
Yes.
Mandel.
Yes. Thank you all. All right, I'm now opening additional public comment. So if you'd like to come up. It's a 3-minute limit per person. And please give your full name and address. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Girija Suryanarayanan. Thanks for all the.
Take the mic.
Tilt the microphone
Take the,
down or two. There you go.
Say, you can
that fine?
listen that and bring it down a little bit. If you don't speak in the mic, it won't get recorded, Rob. And if you could, yeah, need the spelling of the name, Allison?
I'll have you sign in the sheet when you're done.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could just repeat your name and address.
Hi, I'm Girija Suryanarayanan. I live at 5 Millstone Road. Thank you for all the things that the council members do to the town. I have my son here. His name is Rashid. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's
Uh,
Rashid. I go at 6th grade at the school, community middle school. And I also live near, and I'd like to say 2 things that I'd like to happen. So one would be that I've noticed that our roads don't have that many streetlights.
Excuse me, can you get in a little closer to the microphone?
So
And maybe lift it up a little further. Thank you.
I've noticed that our roads don't have many streetlights, and it doesn't help that much because once we were driving and we nearly got into a very close call with a deer, and we think that this could be avoided if there were brought streetlights, which is a better result than putting high beam on cars. I also think that another good option would be to make the speed limit from 35 to 25 or 30, because some people drive over to 35. And when people like me play ball and the ball goes on the road, it's very dangerous since drivers don't notice all the time or they get panicked and scared. Another reason is that I'm not allowed to bike to school and because of the one reason that many cars are going very fast on the road. So I think that it would be good if speed limit is reduced.
These are just the two propositions that we were trying to think about because, I mean, I see there is a streetlight at the house number 24, which is like right before the bridge. And after that, it's just till the traffic light, there are no lights in between. It's suddenly like a dark zone and you have oncoming vehicles. And I mean, it's not like often, but if you're like after 8 or just even during the twilight zone, when there are some small kids who are biking, or now especially this road is having a lot of new residents move in with small kids around, which was not the case when we just moved about like 15 years ago. So it's a little risky, I feel, that we just have this proposition. If it can make the changes, it will help all the people residing on that road.
And this is Millstone Road, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
There are
Anything else?
no sidewalks there, right?
There's no sidewalk too, yeah. I mean, we are ready for the sidewalk. I'm not sure about if there's any opposition or anything from the other residents. I'm not aware of it. But yes, we would love to have a sidewalk which continues right from the train station on that road too.
Sidewalk has, like, Cranberry Road recently got sidewalks, right?
Right,
It
that's
was,
right. If
but
it would
like-
just continue even to ours,
Right,
because
there's a long process for it. All the residents have to agree to it and all of that. Like, I'll be happy to talk to you on that.
okay,
separately.
yeah, that would
So-
help also. I mean, anything that, he's a scout, so anything, for the scout to do, which can help us, move on with this will be great.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, on the issue of the speed limit, we'll have the administration take a look at
Yeah.
that.
I mean, Millstone Road, we did do a traffic study to see if we can reduce the speed limit. It's one of the frustrating and silly things because the people are driving too fast. The law says that once you do a study, you can only reduce speed limit to 85% of the average speed of the car. And that average speed was more than 30, so we couldn't reduce the speed limit. Doesn't make logical sense that you can't reduce the speed limit because people are driving fast. You want to reduce the speed limit because you want people to drive slow. So we did try to reduce the speed limit there. We haven't thought about sidewalk. Sidewalk is a long and expensive process, but we did try to reduce the speed limit. So if we get around to doing the study again, just drive very, very slowly there multiple times a day just to reduce the average speed. So.
Yeah, the
It's
laws
a-
are very weirdly
They-
worded,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
if an average speed of the car right now currently is faster, you can't really reduce it, is what the law says, right? So when we
Yeah.
do a survey next time, we can work with our neighbors to drive really, really slow on that road so we can bring the.
If we
speed
could,
limit down.
if we could do that, we should probably get them to do that now. Yeah, the law is kind of set to favor motorists more than pedestrians, so they look to not discomfort the motorist with slower speeds than they're going, and they wind up taking a look and saying, hey, people are going faster on this road, so the road could probably take it, and that way everybody who's driving will be happy. And I keep hearing rumors that they're looking to change that, or at least to allow us to have some sort of exceptions allowed, but that's not in my power, so. That's what.
The other option is that to look at ways to create a situation, it's called, road calming or driver calming, so that even though the speed limit is
Yeah.
35, when somebody's driving on that road, that doesn't feel like they can go 35 either because there's, a center medium or the streets are more narrow, or I've seen even places where they take the center line and make it squiggly as opposed to straight, because it then creates this visual sense that, oh, I can't go fast here because could be dangerous. So there's a combination of things that can happen in order to slow drivers down. not necessarily always changing the speed limit on the sign, but doing other things to the road to make people
I
go
think-
slower.
Yeah,
So-
I think anything that can help, because I know that that's the road where all the high schoolers drive.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
Yep.
during the morning times and the evening times, it's really crazy because it's that time when everybody wants to reach the school fast because they are at the cutoff time to enter the school.
Sure.
So they are like zipping past, then they know that before the bridge, there's going to be traffic. So
And also,
There's,
yeah, another
okay,
question.
All right. Well, we appreciate your comments all.
Just appreciate the comments. We do have, and we will be looking into that.
Yeah, let the police
So,
know.
yeah.
Maybe they can put up electronic sign, you know,
Mhm. Yeah,
which shows how fast you're going, different things that they can do.
yeah, that will really help. Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay, does anybody else wish to make any public comment at this point? Seeing none, I will close the second public comment. Are there any additional administration updates from Kerry, Mayor, Allison? Oh, sorry, yeah. Missed, I think that's twice I've missed council reports.
Andrew is trying to go watch the game.
Yeah,
Good work.
Linda, here first.
Yeah, okay. Shade Tree Commission met on March 26. Members put their final touches on tasks for the annual Arbor Day celebration, which will be Saturday, April 26th at 10 a.m. at the Ron Rogers Arboretum. If bad weather occurs, then it will be on the same day in the Senior Center. Winners of the K through 8 grade art contest will be announced. And you did get, Francis did send us all an email that if we want to put in a vote for the art contest, so that we can come in the other room.
Tomorrow.
Be Tomorrow.
Yeah.
There'll also be dedication of a stone marker in honor of Ron Slynn, who passed away a few years ago. The DEP's required community forestry management plan will likely need the hiring of a consultant, which Francis will handle. In part, this plan will review the existing need for more street tree maintenance. The commission welcome Alyssa Stanislaw as the township's new landscape architect.
Thank you. Okay, Martin?
Sure. Planning board met last Wednesday, April 2nd. Few things that were discussed. Wasn't a very long meeting. A resolution to the Second Amendment for the senior living at Bear Creek site plan. Then obviously the adoption of amendment to land use plan element RP-9 district and adoption of amendment to Princeton Junction redevelopment plan RP-9 district, which was approved. Next planning board meeting would be May 17th.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah,
May 7th.
Recreation-
May 7th.
Sorry.
Recreation Committee met last week. Two things I'd like to highlight. One is registration for pool permits or pool memberships are open now.
I've done mine.
So awesome.
Remember?
As well as some of the summer programs are available. One change that they're going to be making at the pool is to turn it into a cashless transaction model.
That'll be great.
Preventing having a lot of cash around is one of the objectives. I was also introduced to our new pool manager who just started a couple weeks ago, and he came from, I think it was Marlton or Marlborough, one of the M. townships.
One of the M's down south.
Who's had actually direct experience in aquatics, so he's really comfortable with the current environment, and everybody's really happy to have him on board. The other item of interest is that they are in the process of starting the repavement of the walking route in Community Park, which we approved. So they believe that they'll be minimally be able to complete the entire loop. And depending on the condition of what they see, they might be able to extend it a little further to the other side of the bridge.
Great. I look forward on my Tuesday morning walks
Yes,
to,
nice soft, nice
yeah.
smooth stroll there.
yes. Thank you. Sonia?
Affordable Housing Committee met on April 3rd. They did review the resolution that we just passed earlier today, R105. There was some discussion on that to find out if there's a implementation timeline to the improvements, or is it like, as the apartments are being transitioned from one ownership to the other ownership is when the changes will happen. So that was some discussion on that. The attorney also mentioned to us that there is the new affordable housing HMFA laws will be published by end of this year, most likely summer. One important thing to note is the area median income limits may increase by 2% overall. Parking Authority meets this Wednesday, so I don't have any updates on that. On another note, West Windsor Gives Back has announced their events for this year. So just save the dates. May 24th would be the cricket tournament. June 20th would be Dive into Summer. And the tentative date for Mayor's Ball is September 27th.
Thank you. Looks forward to everything. The Environmental Commission hasn't met since the last meeting. They will be meeting Thursday night. But we're continuing to work on some of the projects, including the Sustainable Jersey in between meetings. Thank you. We are not having a closed session, so at this point, unless I've left anything off, may I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.